Hey everyone, it's Jaden, or the Grey Ghost, and little warning, in this video I will be talking about the Holocaust, MAGA, colonialism, and general transphobia and homophobia. I took the burden of researching this, and it was a lot. But I hope you enjoy this video. Throughout history, trans people have existed. We've been here since the beginning, and many indigenous cultures have recognized or even celebrated us. Along with more than 2 genders existing, there are at least 6 distinct biological sexes. We have always been visible. Before all of European colonization, there were thousands of different cultures that recognized and even celebrated multiple genders. Part of the process of colonization includes redefining cultures, customs, identities, values, and norms. The European colonizers forced their views of gender and sexuality, among other things, onto indigenous people. This led to most other gender identities being stifled by the colonizers. This is one of the first examples of the cycle of acceptance and pushback. Weimar Germany was quite trans-friendly for the time. While cross-dressing was still illegal, trans people were given transvestite certificates, which allowed them to wear clothes that aligned with their gender expression. The ISS, Institute for Sexual Science, founded by Magnus Hirschfeld, was working on some of the world's first medical transitions. The Third Sex was the world's first trans magazine. There was a thriving queer nightlife and queer balls. This all ended as the Nazis took control over transvestite certificates were revoked, the ISS was destroyed, the third gender stopped publishing. And so many trans sisters and brothers were arrested, killed, or taken to concentration camps. Even though many people who have bigoted beliefs have tried to deny the facts that trans people are victims of the Holocaust, we have historical documents of trans people being targeted by Nazis during the Holocaust. To learn more about Weimar Germany, I suggest Kaz Rowe's amazing video on it. It'll be linked in the description. After World War II in America, a lot of people got really into conservative values and tried to suppress the quote-unquote weird people. At the end of the 1960s, the feminist movement started to get more active and as we got further into the 1970s, there were more queer representation, but at the same time, there was a lot of transphobia and homophobia in media, but we were getting more decent representation like we did before World War II. We got access to medical care and other freedoms, but with the freedom came backlash. Trans people were left behind by the rest of the queer community. Lesbian and gay groups locked trans people, especially trans women, out of their groups. In the 1980s, was ripe with discrimination towards trans people. The American Psychiatric Association classified trans people as having gender identity disorder. Schools still had strict dress codes and no gender-neutral restrooms. The F-slur was being used as slang, and people who were out of social norms were still greatly mistreated. Trans people found community in newsletters, magazines, support groups, and queer nightclubs. In the 90s, it wasn't much better. Gay was used as slang for bad, even though the original definition was happy and good. In 2015, America legalized gay marriage, and queer representation media has been getting better and more frequent up to a point. Along with the growth of queer rights and representation, the MAGA and far-right crowd grew, and they kept spreading misinformation about the queer community. False stories about litter boxes for kids who identify as cats, drag queens being groomers, trans women having an edge in women's sports, kids getting pressured into trans surgeries. There is no evidence for any of these stories, and they have been debunked many times. They are taking away trans rights and spreading misinformation and lies. Once again, as trans people get more attention and rights, basic human rights, they get hit with so much backlash, including death threats, abuse, and harassment. Every step forward, we get forced back 5 steps. In conclusion, throughout history, every time queer people get acceptance and rights, they get hit with hate and discrimination against them. The cycle keeps repeating. The wave of people denying the fact that trans people were affected and victims of the Holocaust is disgusting. The ISS with the first Nazi book burning, Joanne.